Thanks for checking out the Locked On NFL podcast on YouTube. Subscribe for great daily content. Also, check out Locked On 49ers, that YouTube page. It's new, but it's taken off just like this team over the last 10 games to talk about the performance from the game last night, or I'm sorry, Saturday night, as this is the Monday edition of the podcast. Brian Peacock from Locked On Niners. And Brian, no offensive touchdowns. We were well aware of the record for California teams at Lambeau Field in January and December. It was 2-12. But how were the Niners able to pull it off on Saturday night?
I have no idea. It was insane. 0 touchdowns on offense on the road against a Hall of Fame quarterback. And if you told me that they were going to score 0 touchdowns on offense after one series, it looked like that game was over. But DeMeco Ryans' defense held strong the rest of the game. After the opening drive, the Packers scored 3 points. And Aaron Rodgers had 55 passing yards in the second half. So pretty unbelievable. DeMeco Ryans, he's going to get more and more interviews, and he's going to be a head coach, whether it's this offseason or next offseason. It's pretty clear. And I think his resume just absolutely grows leaps and bounds every single week with what we've seen him do against offenses like the Dallas Cowboys and now the Green Bay Packers, and a couple of times against the Los Angeles Rams as well. So what the 49ers are doing right now is almost a destiny-like feel, because the game script couldn't have been less in their favor, and somehow they're able to go on the road and win another game as these road warriors have been for the 49ers. And it's pretty unbelievable. And some special teams plays a role. And I don't know how a team is able to have the worst special teams in the NFL and have the best record in the league and be the 1 seed. But we saw it rear its head in the playoffs for the Packers, and that was really the key. And really one player, if I had to point to one guy that really, a player you would never think in a pregame, a player's name we didn't mention all week long, and we haven't even mentioned much this season, and that's Jordan Willis. He had the chop heard around the world is what I'm calling it. He it was a great special teams play. He chopped the offensive lineman's arm so he couldn't get it on Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward cuts right through, blocks a field goal at the end of the first half, and then he blocks a punt, just rides the long snapper back into the punter, blocks a punt. It's the only 7 points the 49ers got in that game, the only touchdown. So Jordan Willis alone was worth 10 points in that. It's crazy. It's really insane what the 49ers were able to do and how they were able to win that game, because it looked much different than every other, run the ball, play bully ball, control the clock type of game the 49ers have won this year.
It's been an incredible run, Brian. I mean, this team was 3-5, dead in the water. We're pretty much saying, the bulk. I don't know if it's the Niners fan base, but everybody else saying, "Hey, just put Trey Lance back there. Let's see what the kid has." And they didn't. And then they go on and on this run since then, 8-2 over that span, and they're winning games exactly like they did on Saturday night. I mean, in the season finale to get into the playoffs, they're down 17-0 in that contest. They have to go to overtime against a very talented Rams team. Is this Kyle Shanahan's most impressive performance since he's taken over the reins as the 49ers head coach?
Yes. He's only had 2 winning seasons. He went to the Super Bowl last time, and I think this is already more impressive, even though they haven't gotten to the Super Bowl, and they do have a chance to do that next week too. It's pretty phenomenal the way the team started and stumbled into the season. They were undefeated in 2019 for most of the year, so that was a much different feel than this 2021 team was. And to put it another way, last week during the wild card round, I was on a mountain skiing in Utah because at the end of October, I decided to make plans because I didn't think there was any way the 49ers would be playing that weekend. And it turned out they were. And then I got COVID because of it. So, but I battled through that just like the 49ers have battled and came out on top. And so that's where the 49ers right now are. And the coaching job, you've got to point to the special teams coordinator, Richard Hightower, who maybe even saved his job, because the 49ers were, I think, 27th ranked in special teams this year. But luckily, they only had to play one special teams unit, and it happened to be the worst special teams unit in the NFL, the Packers, this week. So he might have saved his job. And then, the head coach, who was the offensive coordinator in Kyle Shanahan and DeMeco Ryans, this team's well coached, and we're seeing that right now. And it's really wild to see this 49ers team come together.
One last question for you, and you can obviously find more insight on the big win, Locked On 49ers, wherever you find podcasts, free on all platforms, and of course their YouTube page. Follow Brian on Twitter at BD Peacock and his co-host Eric Crocker. Jimmy Garoppolo, 3-0 in the postseason now. The stat was hilarious last week. He has more postseason victories than the than the Cowboys since 2000, since the 1990s. Hilarious. But he makes mistakes. You can't, that's undeniable. But the win-loss record with Jimmy at quarterback for the Niners and without him, that's undeniable as well. What is it? How do they find success with him in the shotgun or under center?
It's so hard. It's so hard to put a finger on, and I don't know what magic leadership sauce he's sprinkling over the locker room and over the team. There's something there. They believe, with the path they've taken, they for sure now know that they're never out of it. They can climb out of a 17-0 hole. They can score 0 touchdowns on offense and win a game. It's pretty amazing. And Jimmy Garoppolo, like you said, the numbers aren't good in the playoffs. He will throw the ball to the other team sometimes, and they're still winning games, but there'll be periods where he's got this Drew Brees-like efficiency, and sometimes it's just on a game-ending drive where he gets him down there for a field goal. He threw some times in this game that were dropped, and maybe the 49ers would have had a lead in the first half, and it would have looked much different game script-wise for the Niners. So there's times when Garoppolo plays really well, but you always know there's that, the way I've always compared him to is like he plays like Drew Brees for a quarter, then all of a sudden he turns into Sam Darnold for a quarter or a drive even. And you don't know exactly what it's going to be. And so you can't ever count on which one it's going to be, but he can do both. So you're kind of just on this roller coaster ride. It's been that way all season. It's been that way in the playoffs. But his teammates trust him. His coaching staff trusts him. He's got some sort of a clutch gene that I don't know if it's a real thing. I don't really believe in it, but it somehow exists and is happening, and I'm witnessing it. And he's got leadership, and his teammates love him and believe him, and he's tough, and he's playing through injuries. And they win when Jimmy Garoppolo's in there. And that's why we've nicknamed him Jimmy W on the podcast. And some of it's tongue in cheek because I'm not a QB wins guy, but they win with Jimmy Garoppolo in there. And look, maybe he's only just had to be better than CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins and the Brian Hoyers of the world that have been the 49ers quarterbacks otherwise under Kyle Shanahan. So how good is he? And is that scary for how good the 49ers could be with that ceiling with Trey Lance when he develops, which is why that's always a thing that's there. And it's going to start happening in 2022 still, no matter where the 49ers go, I think, with Jimmy Garoppolo this year, even if they win a Super Bowl. But there's something to it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what that secret leadership sauce is, but Jimmy Garoppolo somehow has it, and they continue to win games with him no matter how many interceptions he throws.
Jimmy G's secret sauce. It's essential listening, leading you up to the NFC Championship game wherever you find podcasts. Locked On 49ers. Of course, the Peacock and Williamson show. Great insight there with Brian Peacock and Matt Williamson. Of course, Locked On 49ers on YouTube. Thanks, Brian.
Appreciate you, Bo.